Welcome back to PXP channel. So far, we have configured Spring Security to authenticate users using database authentication. Actually, our user details service is connecting to PXP user details service, which is returning a hard-coded user, no matter what username and password you pass. It has got nothing to do with Spring Security though. But we will modify our application to authenticate against a real database instead of returning a hard-coded user every time. For this project, we will use MySQL database as our data store, and we will store all our user information in one of the tables in MySQL database. Let us go to our pom.xml file. Let us go ahead and add the dependency for MySQL driver. Also add the dependency for Spring Data JPA. MySQL driver is already present, so we will remove that. We will keep the Spring Data JPA dependency. Now we will open our application.properties file and we will define the connection attributes for MySQL database. Okay, now it is done. So now that this connection string is out of the way, we will go ahead and create another package for our entity class, and let's name it as dot entity. And let's name our class as user entity. We will annotate this class with @entity annotation. The auto import suggestion is not being suggested, so let's refresh the Maven project. It will download all the dependencies. So now, yeah, you can see the suggestions. So we will import the dependency from java x.persistence. So in this class, we will define only three properties, that is username, password, and roles. Roles will be stored as a comma separated string. Private string password and then private string roles. Let me annotate the username with @ID because this is our primary key. We will create the constructor that is going to be a no arg constructor and getters and setters for all the fields. Yeah, now that our entity class is ready, let's go ahead and create the repository interface. Within the package com.php.springsecurity dot repository, and we will name it as user repository. This is going to be an interface, and this will extend JPA repository. To the generics, we will pass our entity class and the data type of the primary key, which is string. We will annotate the the interface with @repository annotation, and we will define a method to fetch user user by ID, and this is going to return an optional user entity. So that's what we have mentioned. And to this method, we will pass the ID. In order to get a match, we will need to scan the database with user ID, and hence we are defining a method find by ID. Okay, so the last thing is we will go to our service class. We first of all we will auto-wire the user repository. Let's delete this line for now. We will go to the database and search for the user with the user ID, and this is the find by ID is going to return an optional user, so that is why we have mentioned optional here. And we are checking here that if user exists, that is if user dot is present, then only we will go ahead and create the user object and return back to the Spring Security. For the roles, we are creating a list of simple granted authorities, and we will name this list as authorities. And we will split the role, comma separated roles. So we're saying user.get user roles dot split, and we are converting the array into a list so that we can use Stream API to create a list of simple granted authority. So I'm saying stream dot for each authority. I will go ahead and add um, each authority to the list of simple granted authority. So I'm saying authorities dot add, and I'll create an object of simple granted authority. Within that, I will pass the authority. So now that the authorities, I mean the list of authorities is ready, so we will create an object of um, user. To that we will pass our username. So this time we are not hard coding it. We are getting the user from our database, and we are passing those, I mean the username, password, and the authorities to the constructor of the user class. So in case the user is not available, we will say throw an exception, user name not found exception. So we are throwing user name not found exception, and within that we will say that user doesn't exist. Okay, our service class is ready. Okay, my MySQL is already running on my local machine, so I have already added a couple of users in the user underscore entity table. So John and Linda are the users. Let me go ahead and start my application. Okay, the application is started. Okay, let us test the application using Postman. So we will try to hit the /hello endpoint. First, let's remove all the credentials and try to hit it. And you see unauthorized, the user is unauthorized. 401 is the response. This time let's provide a real user, John, and password is John. If I do a show password, I can see the password is John, and if I try to access it, I'm able to access, and the response is 200 OK. Similarly, I can use another user that is Linda, and password is Linda. This time also I'm able to access it. If I pass some wrong password, then I'm not allowed to access that endpoint. Similarly, if I um, use some wrong username also, I'm not allowed to access the endpoint. So our Spring security is securing all our endpoints. Now we are, instead of hard coding, sending the hard coded user, we are actually using the real users from the database. That's it for today. In the next episode, we will move into JWT authentication. If you have not done so, then please hit the subscribe button. If you have any queries or comments, then please do not hesitate to comment in the comment section. Thank you for watching.